Should work. Thanks, Ryan.
Start. Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming to this very important as well as sensitive topics of caste and caste discrimination. And first of all, thank you to Remy, Atmika, and Olin College for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to speak on these important topics. I have Jasprit Mahal. She will be helping me in the second part of the presentation. And then I have Swaroop, Ashokji, and Hemant, all the directors of the Boston Study Group, to answer for any Q&A session. So they will be helping me in that. So before I go ahead and start the presentation on caste discrimination, I would like to play a small video about the Boston Study Group to understand what is Boston Study Group is. Thank you. Thank you for watching. So today we are going to talk about what is caste and caste discrimination, and why talk about caste in US universities with human rights issue. Stripped and beaten for swimming. The Dalit boys were stripped, beaten, and paraded naked by the villagers. Dalit man in Ahmednagar killed for ringtone praising Ahmed, just for ringtone. Dalit killed for watching upper caste organized Garba event. 90-year-old Dalit burned alive for entering temple in the Milky Jama, Uttar Pradesh. Indian Burmese caste Dalit man killed for owning horse. And Dalit man killed for just sitting cross-legged. Dalit killed for watching upper caste organized Garba event. And Dalit man attacked with blade, which after cousin was killed for sporting just mustache. Finally beaten for wearing the royal shoes. So these are the news from 2016-17. And if you understand what the silly reasons for which the rich people in India has lost their lives. Now this is another instance occurred in the village of Chanu in the Ahmedabad district of Gujarat. In November 1935, some untouchable women of well-to-do family started fetching water in metal pots, and the Hindus looked upon the use of metal pots by untouchables as an affront to the dignity and assaulted the untouchables women of the temples, just using the metallic utensils. The incident at Kavita in Gujarat happened last year. The Hindus of Kavita ordered the untouchables not to insist upon sending their children to common village school maintained by the government, and they were beaten. And in this incident, some fellow from the Dalit community goes to the pilgrimage, and after pilgrimage, he gives foods to his community. And during that, he serves butter. And that is offendable to the people from some other community. And that's why when these people were eating the food, they were attacked. So the first slide, which I shown you from 2016, 17, and 18, and these slides, which I'm showing now, are 80 years apart. But if you were to realize the reasons for which these Dalits were killed were so silly that we cannot fathom that some type of events like this can happen in any part of the world. So why this is happening? To understand this, we need to understand what is caste and caste system. So in the Hinduism, the caste is divided into this pyramid with the Brahmin at the top of the pyramid. Kshatriya next, followed with the Vaishya, and then the Shudra. And as per the Hindu mythology, the Brahmins who are on the top are coming out of the mouth of a Brahma, the creator of the universe. Kshatriya is coming from the arms, and the Vaishyas coming from the thighs, whereas Shudras coming from the feet. And if you look at these untouchables, they were nowhere in this hierarchy. They are just outcast street sweepers, latrine cleaners. So this is the caste system in India. And there are around 2,500 castes, and within the caste there are 30,000 sub-castes in the Indian system, and untouchables are not counted in that. So most of you may not know the caste, but you know the class, and that's why I thought it will be important to show the class versus caste so that you can understand what the differences between this one. So in the caste system, it is originated in the Indian subcontinent. And although scholars have urged that the caste system exists in India, but with the migration of so many Indians to the Western countries, now it has spread all over the world with the Indian diaspora. The classes are found almost everywhere. Classes are especially the characteristic of industrial societies of Europe and America. In caste system, non-economic factors such as influence of the religion, theory of karma, rebirth, and ritual are most important. Whereas in class system, it's based on social and economical factors and individual achievement. In caste system, your occupation is decided by your birth. Access to the education depends on what caste you belong to. And your rights to accumulate wealth depend on your caste. Whereas class system are open. People are free to gain a different level of education or employment than their parents. And with them, they can change the class. But the caste system is static. That is, no social mobility. In caste system, person remains in the same caste till death. Whereas in class, it is typically more fluid than the caste system, and the boundaries between classes are never clear. As such, social mobility, movement upwards and downwards is much more common in the class structure. In caste system, interdining and intermarriage between people from the different castes and even within the different subcaste is prohibited and has heavy penalty, in some cases, death depending on the caste involved. In the class system, there are no formal restrictions on interdining and intermarriage between the people from the different classes. So why this particular caste is prevalent and why it is so bad? To understand that, we need to understand what are the rules of the caste. So the Manu, who is a Brahmin somewhere in 2000 years back or something, he wrote a Manusmriti, basically the laws of the Hinduism. And as per him, that the Shudra was to take the last place in the social order. So I just narrated few of the laws from his book. That the Shudra was impure and therefore no sacred act should be done within his sight and within his hearings. And if by mistake these particular Shudras hear any of the mantras by the Brahmins, they put the molten lead in his eyes, ears. That is what used to happen in the past. That the Shudra is not to be respected in the same way as the other classes. That the life of a Shudra is of no value, and anybody may kill him without having to pay compensation, and if at all of the small value as compared with that of the Brahman, Kshatriya, and the Vaishya. That the Shudra must not acquire knowledge, and it is a sin and a crime to give him education. That the Shudra is born in servility and must be kept in servility forever. That a Shudra must not acquire property. A Brahmin can take his property at his pleasure. That a Shudra cannot hold office under the state. That the duty and salvation of the Shudra lies in his serving the higher classes. That the higher classes must not intermarry with the Shudra. They can, however, keep a Shudra woman as a concubine. But if the Shudra touches a woman of the higher classes, he will be liable to the dire punishment, including the death penalty. Brahman men can marry Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and even Shudra women. But Shudra men can marry only the Shudra women. So this type of the disparity was there between the untouchables. And this is for the Shudras. If you remember the pyramid, the Shudra is the downmost in the pyramid. Correct? And untouchables were below that. So you can imagine these laws were for the Shudras. You can imagine the plight of the untouchables who were below the Shudras in that land. So the condition of the women were far worse than the Shudras. So they were on par with the Shudras, irrespective of what caste they are born, whether they are from Brahmin, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, or Shudra. They were treated equally. Manu says, it is the nature of women to seduce men in this world. For that reason, the wise are never unguarded in the company of the females. He demeans the women so much. Wise people should avoid sitting alone with one's mother. daughter or sister. Since carnal desire is always strong, it can lead to the temptation. Men may be lacking virtue, be sexual perverts, immoral, and devoid of any good qualities. And yet, women must constantly worship and serve their husbands. Women have to divine right. Women have no divine right to perform any religious rituals, nor make vows or observe a fast. Her only duty is to obey and please her husband, and she will, for that reason, alone be exalted. So these are the rules of the Manu which were followed since centuries in the Hinduism. And that was the reason of the caste and caste discrimination happening. So condition of untouchable then. So these are the some of the incidences from 200 or 300 years back. Untouchables in Maharashtra under Brahmin Peshwa's rule. So if you see this picture, these people are carrying the pot in their neck. So in case they have to spit, they cannot spit on the road, because if some Brahmin or higher caste person just walk on the road and he happens to walk on that spit, he will get polluted. And that's why these Shudras were supposed to spit in their pots. At the same time, if you see, these are some type of branches of the tree, so that whenever they are walking, they are cleaning the path while going, so that anybody walking on the same path doesn't get polluted. So this is the condition of the Shudras. In Maharashtra, an untouchable was required to wear a black thread either in his neck or on his wrist for the purpose of ready identification. So people wanted to identify who are the Shudras. In Gujarat, the untouchables were compelled to wear a horn as their distinguishing mark. In the Punjab, a sweeper was required to carry a broom in his hand or under his armpit as a mark of his being a scavenger. In Bombay, the untouchables were not permitted to wear clean or untorn clothes. In fact, the shopkeeper used to torn and soil the cloth before selling to the untouchables. In Malabar, it is in Kerala, the untouchables were not allowed to build houses above 1 floor in height and not allowed to cremate their dead. In Malabar, the untouchables were not permitted to carry umbrellas, to wear shoes or golden ornaments, to milk cows, or even to use the ordinary language of the country. In South India, untouchables were expressly forbidden to cover the upper part of their body above the waist, and in the case of women of the untouchables, they were compelled to go with the upper part of their body quite bare. In fact, to protest against this particular practice, one Dalit woman cut her breast and died from those wounds. So condition of untouchables now. So what is the condition? So this is 200, 300 years back. So there must be some improvement. The recent statistics indicate that every week in Dalit communities across India are 13 murders, 5 Dalit homes burned, 6 Dalit people kidnapped or abducted, and 21 Dalit women raped. So this statistics I got from 2006. And since last 5-6 years, these numbers have rapidly gone up. It is estimated that a crime is committed against a Dalit person every 18 minutes. The problem for many is not the law, but the lack of political will at local and national level to apply it. In 2006, the official conviction rate for Dalit atrocity cases was just 5.3%. The statistics are horrifying. In rural areas, 37.8% of government-run schools make Dalit children sit separately from other children. In 27.6% of the rural villages, Dalits are prevented from entering police station. In 33% of rural villages, public health workers refuse to enter Dalit homes. 48.4% of the Dalit villages are denied access to the water sources. And in 70% of rural villages, Dalit and non-Dalit people cannot live together. Dalit women experience triple discrimination based on first their caste, then their economic situation, and finally their gender. In rural India, 70% of the Dalit women are illiterate. In the southern states, thousands of girls are forced into prostitution before they reach puberty. Temple prostitutes or jogins, literally female servants of the god, are usually Dalits. Once dedicated, the girl is unable to marry and forced to become a prostitute for the upper caste members and eventually auctioned off to an urban pocket. So this is the condition of the Dalits after 3,000 years of the same torture and discrimination. So with that, I will now call Jussi to take forward.
Hey everyone, I'm Jaspreet. I work at Brandeis with academic services. So, and I'm also a board member of Boston Study Group. So in that capacity, I'll talk a little bit about how and why we need to talk about caste on our campuses, and what does it mean for us? What would it mean for any member of the community to be here, and how would that lead to many obvious feelings, or being outed, being not welcome to the community. So we'll kind of talk through together in that space. But we talked about a lot about what is caste and how that kind of relates in India, how members are felt in those spaces. So as we definitely know that it's a human rights issue. We need to consider it as a human rights issue before we start thinking about what to do about it. So these are parts from Universal Declaration of Human Rights. I'm sure some of you must have heard about that. So it proclaims that human beings are born free and they need to have dignified lives. So that's a big key here, regardless of their race, color, or national origin. So this particular part we have kept just because we understand that how race plays out in the US is kind of similar how caste plays out in India or South Asian region. There are similarities, there are differences, yes, but it kind of plays in the same way. And all human beings are and need to be equal before the law. So that is an important part. We often hear from the religious point of view that human beings are equal in front of God. Yes, but what about in front of the human beings themselves? Because that is a key point that we need to understand when we engage in a society like ours. So what does it mean for us to be in US universities and to think about caste? I just wanted to go through a couple of things, and you will hear more about that from personal experience from Amol, who's our member here from Boston Study Group. And so just going through that and then seeing how that is played out already. So what does it mean? So let's think through. I would love if we can have just one phrase or even a word thing coming from you all about what would that mean if you think about caste as a system, and then if that exists here on your campus at Olin, how would it feel like in terms of classroom collaborations? What would that be? If there is a caste discrimination kind of, engagement, what would that mean in classroom collaborations? Would it be working together, or still having that kind of feeling that you are superior? You remember the pyramid that Sanjay showed you before, how would that, so if there's somebody from here, and here, how would that play out in classroom collaboration? Yeah.
Probably pretty isolating.
Yeah.
Interacting with people who are in a higher caste than you.
Yeah.
And debating with them in any way would be really difficult. You would not have a lot of power, or
Yeah.
you would feel like you don't have the power in the situation.
That's beautiful. Do we have that?
Yeah.
We'll keep those little fun chimes in there. But yes, so isolation, powerlessness. What else? What else would we feel? Or anybody from the community would feel? Maybe in terms of peer projects?
Maybe lack of ownership of any sort of accomplishments?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Can you say a little more about that? How would that play out?
I guess if any person in a lower caste worked on a project,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that people in higher caste would not let them have like any give them credit for any useful ideas.
So not having credit for the work that they do. Yeah, for sure. How did it play out in terms of living spaces?
I think maybe both in living spaces and dining spaces, it would just be a lot worse quality for people of lower caste because there's, I don't know, like if people are seen as lesser, then you're not going to put as much resources towards them or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. So like just not having their space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, did you say quality?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what about celebrations, cultural events? You sure do have that here, right? Uh-huh. Yeah, we do. We try and do a lot at Brandeis too. Yeah. How would that be? Yeah.
Maybe people like wouldn't be invited or something if they were in a lower caste.
Yeah, not invited. Yeah, what else? Yes.
And it's on the same point, like certain cultural celebrations get priority over others.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
it could be like Diwali gets celebrated, but like Ambedkar Jayanti doesn't get celebrated.
Yeah. Thank you. We are also in our process like that at Brandeis. Yeah. Yes, you raised your hand.
I had the same point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Certain celebrations would be more. So it would add to the campus culture. How would it play out? Yeah. How about like friends and hangout group?
Usually, there would be an incentive to only hang out with people from your caste, which like creates further division.
Yeah. So if you think about like how you talk about that in psychology, that's called an in-group and out-group behavior. Yeah. Yeah. What about dating?
People of lower caste would probably experience more abuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. More abuse. I would put that in bold. Right there. What else?
It's probably less safe to be open with other aspects of your identity too, if you're in a lower caste.
Say more.
So if you're gay or if you have any other marginalized identity that gay is relevant to dating, you might not participate at all in that identity.
Yes. So intersectionality. Hmm? Yeah, and like as we work in this space, we know all the isms. We know all the isms? What are they? Big one. Racism, yep. Sexism, yes. Classism. Ableism, yes, thank you. So we know like all of these isms exist and they don't exist in isolation. They always intersect. And then some identities are further marginalized because of all those intersections. So yes, thank you for all your contributions into this. And yeah, this is, you see the whole list and you guys came up with this list. So if you try and like engage in this understanding, you would come to what a person from the community being on the campus would feel like, unless the place is specifically designed and steps are taken to turn that around. And we are really thankful and happy that Rami and Atmika took the step to bring us. Yeah, please.
One thing that I thought was really fascinating in dialogue with Atmika over the past couple of weeks was just also like understanding, like anything that contributes to this is internationalization and also like socialization around what the dominant narrative is. So especially if we're looking at other countries, like what is South Asia and Southeast Asia narrative that's provided in the U.S. And how do we view culture through one lens, and do we know that caste has a play in whose dominant narrative is presented to us as what the norm is of what another country looks like? It was very fascinating. So I want to add that.
True. So that would add to the representation. If you've never met a person from the Dalit community, you would never, have their point of view. You would never know. And that's true for like critical race theory that we engage in terms of racism and classism. If you never have relationships with a person from a different community, if you never have met them, if you never forge bonds, they're alien to you. They're not human. So this not being human itself turns them to this place where you can do whatever to them. So if you turn them human, then they become somebody that you can actually relate to. So yeah, that's the whole point with all of these like isms, right? So just moving forward quickly. So that's what we all kind of put together about caste discrimination, and pretty much like all of that came up here about reduced career prospects, lower earnings. We already know women earn less than men, and so if the dynamics of caste is added there, it would further marginalize them. Detrimental effects on education, isolation, all of this that we talked about. Social isolation, even like, hiding that aspect of their identity. So that can also be pretty isolating. Reduced access to social provisions, and also like mental health. The whole point about being isolated, pressures of academics. We all know how we deal about that, and like added to all of that could be really dangerous. So what can we do? And this is a huge, big part. Probably a huge question mark should be at the middle for you all to think about. We all can think about together. It's like, how can we do or take steps so that all of this can be tackled through this? So, there are certain things which probably, we have access to. We kind of as a student community group can push forward. And there's certain things which probably are more, generational. They take time. They just don't build overnight. So we have to make distinctions and not be sad that instant change is not happening. So talking about campus culture. So if you think about campus culture, how would that shift? It would include all of this, ownership of accomplishments of people from different communities, or even, having the space to voice out what they feel like, what's their worldview. Talking about that, celebrations, that's a big one. That makes a person feel like part of the community or not. So that's a big one. Or even simply like, organizing an event like this. This is, you are probably one of the very few colleges who do this, and we've been trying to engage with more universities and colleges who are doing that. So this is awesome. This is great. So that is a step forward. And then thinking about our policies. So it's very, it can be very disturbing from, I grew up with a lot of privilege in India. So I know I grew up with a lot of caste privilege, a lot of class privilege in India. And then from there coming here and then being termed as a brown person. So that is an interesting engagement. And like we need to, I feel like as a part of working in the Ambedkarite movement. And some of you who were there at the celebration last week must have heard. So Ambedkarite movement has nothing to do with what your caste is. It is a movement towards an ideology of like equality, liberty, fraternity. So it doesn't mean that if you are from the particular community that you can be part of Ambedkarite movement. Anybody can be part of that movement. And so like as a personal journey, I would say that just thinking about your privilege and your oppression together would kind of like help you out in that space. So talking about that in terms of policies, how that translates into your campus policies, whether you include or you recognize caste as a part of your non-discrimination policy. That's a big one. Whether you recognize certain celebrations which are part of the community. And when emails go out for celebrations and for somebody mentioned that Diwali is, yes, Atmika mentioned like if Diwali is being celebrated, are we also recognizing Ambedkar Jayanti, or we are recognizing Buddhist celebrations? So all of those bring out, and then all of those together make the campus climate is kind of the key. So this is a very short part, but for sure this is something to think about further. And then we have been talking about Dr. Ambedkar. So this is him. This is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He's super cool. He actually studied here, like in Columbia University. He's an alum of London School of Economics. He's an anthropologist, philosopher, sociologist. So many degrees there. And he was the first law minister of independent India. And he wrote the Constitution of India. So looking at that space, his ideology was also not just working for the community. His idea was working for all the oppressed communities. That included, very well, in a big way, included women in India. So the first progressive policy in India, which came out as the Hindu Code Bill, was actually written by him. So, and this is a beautiful quote, one of my favorites. Ours is a battle not for wealth, not for power. Ours is a battle for freedom, for reclamation of human personality. And we will end there. Thank you. You can have questions, any?
Thank you, Jesse. And we have Amol Ragde, and he's Boston Study Group member. But he has completed his MS here in USA, and he has some first-hand experience about the discrimination outside India, that is in the USA college campus. So he would like to share his own experience here. So Amol Ragde. Slide. Just wanted to add suggestions. Want to go back?
Yeah, I want to. Jai Bhim, everyone. Jai Bhim is a salutation that Dalits use, and Ambedkarites use. Actually, I'm sorry. I want to go to the pyramid here. And, yeah.
Pointer.
So I just wanted to add to this pyramid. The Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and the untouchables. I just wanted to add that as you can imagine, that this represents the size in the population. That's a representation. That's the size. This is like 3%. Brahmins are 2.5 to 3% of India's population, but they're almost everywhere on all the prime positions, and the power is centered with them. These dark lines, these are like you cannot cross these barriers. I mean, actually, the Shudra cannot go in here, and the untouchables, of course, they're even not part of this pyramid. So you cannot cross in here, but these three, they are interchangeable. I mean, that's why they call they're like twice born. Once they are actually born, naturally born. The second time is when they go through the coronation ceremony, which is a thread ceremony, and Vaishya is believed to be can become a Brahmin can become a Kshatriya in the second birth, third birth, whatever that. So just wanted to add to that. And Manusmriti. So if you Manusmriti is as Mr. Sanjay Bhagat mentioned, is a code of law which is the discrimination. There's rules and like everything about discrimination and how the punishments have to be meted out to the downtrodden, to the Dalits, and like many concessions being made for the Brahmin community. Now, if you try to look up Manusmriti online, you would find, and this is where the history has done a lot of goof up. They project Manusmriti to be around like 3,000 years old. It's not. Manusmriti is as recent as 3rd century AD. So when the oppressor, when the upper caste researchers and writers, when they talk about casteism being 3,000 years and 4,000 years old, I don't believe that to be true. And it's a third century AD. The reason why they write and talk about it being 3,000, 4,000 years old is to legitimize it, is to give an impression that this is how old our Indian system has been running. That's absolute nonsense. So yeah, so now I would like to talk about Dalit discrimination on the campuses. So I have I studied here at WPI. I did my MS there, and I was here for like 2.5 years being a student. And it was pretty interesting, this exercise going. I just wanted to add to or to comment on like what I felt or what I did not felt. So I've been Ambedkarite. I've been reading Ambedkar. I think since I was a child, because our family is Ambedkarite, and I've seen my parents and my relatives involved in Ambedkarite movement, and so I've always been watching them, and I kept on reading and I kept on listening. So powerlessness, I never felt being discriminated. Never. Even on the campus, when I used to see those discrete discriminations that was happening, and being a recipient of those, I never felt powerlessness, because I've been reading Ambedkar. I was like, and I knew that this is how they are going to function. This is how they're going to behave. So I think I was strong there, and so I did not feel that. Lack of ownership of accomplishments, I don't think so. I went through that as well. I always believed in myself. I believed in Ambedkar. I believed in the community around. I was fortunate to have a big community, and I would like to add here, Mr. Sanjay Bhagat. He came to see me. His son was also a WPI student, and once he came to see me, and I cannot tell you how of a happiness, that happy moment it was. I mean, I just get even like recalling that moment. I sometimes get a little sentimental. It gave me a feeling of having someone close around me, and so I was fortunate to have a big community. I could have not said the same had it been like 15, 20 years ago, maybe. But I think by year 2009, 2008, we had good presence. So, and I was pretty much proud about that. So, of course, celebrations. Again, celebrations. Because I knew that I was the only one who's coming from a marginalized community. So even I did not bother about it, and I had a clear impression that okay, that is how they're going to celebrate it, and it's going to happen. Of course, it should have been the other way around, but it's not happening. So what I feel is, so when we talk about Dalit experiences, right, in terms of all this, I think we should try to turn it around and ask a question to collect the thoughts like, how would a oppressor operate if he wants to practice discrimination? And then list out the points. Because here what happens is the victim is postmortemized. And as I mentioned, like maybe these experiences might have been different for someone who might have not read Ambedkar, I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
But I think so. And I have come across students who like just a couple of years ago I did a research. I did a paper on discrimination in Caste campus in the Brandeis University 3-day convention program, Unfinished Legacy. That's when I interviewed a couple of Dalits, and one of the Dalits seemed to have been from. I mean, he went through something from his professor, which was at most practice of discrimination, which did impact his career. But even then, he was less read about Ambedkar. But even then, he didn't break out. I mean, he's like, yeah, I always hid my identity, but the professor tried to get out. Based off my last name, he tried to get out like who this person is, and like asking questions like, okay, are you vegetarian, non-vegetarian? Okay, he said, okay, I'm a non-vegetarian. Oh, okay. So is your whole family non-vegetarian, or just yeah, my whole family is? So he asked certain questions, and so he was his guide, and then he just like asked about festivals and okay, do you celebrate this? How do you celebrate this festival? Like, we don't celebrate it. Okay, so he somehow understood his caste, and then he so my friend had asked him to serve as a reference for his new job, and that so the professor, of course, he gave a very negative reference, and that student did not get the job. So when I asked him like what all things did you experience? He said, I experienced everything, like discrimination. They talk openly about reservations, affirmative actions. They criticize openly, but that never shook me, because I knew they're discriminators. They are going to discriminate. We just have to be focused, get a job done. And yeah, it sucks. I mean, it was a for that student, it costed him a job. I mean, it's very difficult to get a job, particularly for an international student, especially from his stream, which was not IT. So it's difficult to get a job, but he managed to, and he was a very bright student, and he had to lose his job. So of course that sucked. But other than that, he said, well, I always hid my identity, and even I did initially, and then I came out openly and tried to see what things are. I mean, because there is no reason for me to identify myself, and once identity was expressed, it started to become more subtle as to some things that were happening around, going out, or celebrations. Yeah, no invites. Yeah, that could happen. Isolation. I think I did not. I did not need anyone from such a mindset. So I would say I was good by myself. So that's why I think it becomes imperative when you turn the table and ask how would an oppressor operate to practice discrimination? And being a Dalit, my experiences are definitely going to be now. Um, if so, if the the experiences that a sovereign is going to coin is going to be different from the actual experiences that Dalit is going to go through. That's what I feel. So uh, and so Ambedkarite movement is all about like decaste movement, right? It's like decaste. You have to decaste and be equal. In the movement, I feel that um, the discrimination on the caste campus or any of this movement that is being led. So I think this movement goes along, gets more momentum, and the Dalits, if they are, if the Dalits should take a step, and as this has happened, and lead this movement. So when Dalit lead a movement, I think the Savarna, the upper caste, of course, they can be the Ambedkarite movement. Anyone can come in, but the upper caste has to be a supporter. But the movement has to be led by Dalits. That's what.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amol. So it is very insightful, and as Amol was explaining, that he never felt powerless in lack of ownership or accomplishment. And that is because he read the Baba Saheb Ambedkar's literature. So there are so much of wealth of literature Baba Saheb has wrote. And once you start reading that, you really feel very powerful because you have answers to every questions anybody is throwing at you. And that's why when the Baba Saheb's mantra and the same thing we follow is educate, organize, and agitate. So that is what the Baba Saheb's literature does to us. So with that, I would like to open the session for any questions. So if you have any questions, we just please Mol, and there are other BSG members out there. They can answer us.
Thank you for being such a nice audience.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious about Ambedkar writing the Constitution, and I feel like within the American context, I see the Constitution as a force toward like conservatism. And so I'm wondering about the relationship of the Constitution in India and how like a very progressive person writing the Constitution does or doesn't like kind of set the tone and stuff.
Yeah. So means when after the independence of India in 1947, so India was not having any constitution. So at that time, the Baba Saheb Ambedkar was the most learned person, and he was the masters in this constitution, laws, and all this. He has studied so many constitutions and all this, and that's why he was selected as the chairman of the draft commission. And there were some 16 people along with him to draft the constitutions. But out of those 16 people, so many people could not participate for some or the other reason. And that's why the whole responsibility of writing this, the big constitution of billion peoples of a populations fell on the shoulders of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar. And he wrote that constitution. So we say he's a progressive, but at the same time, he was a very nationalist also. So when he was writing anything at the same time, he was keeping in mind that what is good for the nation. And that's why this whole means the way he has wrote the constitution, it could keep the whole nation. If you look at the structure of India, there are so many regions within the India, and there are so many different languages. And as I say, there are 2,000 castes, 35,000 subcastes, correct? So to keep the country of that much diversity together is a really, really difficult task. And at that time, there was a feudalism, and there were kings and all these nawabs. And within that, to take care of all these aspects and keep the country safe, that is what the constitution was supposed to do. And Baba Saheb wrote that constitution. So, there's anything?
Yeah. Yeah, just add. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention was, so based off my experiences, I felt that when I came in as a student, we go through orientation, international students orientation, and where we come across the paraphernalia, which talks about university rules and the laws and the U.S. laws and like no discrimination based on caste. Country or color. So that I always felt that they should include the word caste in it, and that's when during the Brandeis event I made an intervention and I expressed that that Brandeis should come up with adding the word caste in that disclosure, so that will send out a ripple effect all throughout the world, and this should be a practice for any university. But at least to begin with, universities who run the caste discourse and the caste courses, they include the word caste, and so that the agencies and any institutions take cognizance of what that is, and that has a huge potential to change things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think just adding to that, we would also want to think is like sometimes when things are not put in black and white in front of you, we have the possibility of moving around and moving around it and like being able to just divest and look another way. So I think that was a big difference for India, because Dr. Ambedkar wrote the Constitution. He was well aware of the caste dynamics and how those played out. So he specifically added those clauses into the Constitution which protected the rights of certain citizens. So specifically, if you look at any article in Indian Constitution, you'll come across scheduled caste, and that was the term that he used: scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. So scheduled tribe is indigenous community in India, and then scheduled caste is what we ourselves refer to ourselves as Dalits. So both of those have been in the Indian Constitution in different clauses in terms of affirmative action policies, in terms of protection for life, in terms of many other different articles. So that was, I think, a big change.
And also the Baba Sahib made the provision for the, that Shudras at the bottom of the ladder. So he not only made the provisions for the SC and ST, but the Shudras.
Yeah.
For them also he made the provision because of some issues from the then political leaders, it could not be implemented, and subsequently after 30 or 40 years, it was implemented in 1985 or something. Yeah. Next question. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, great, thanks. Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for ways to continue to spread some of these ideas outside of university as well?
Yeah, for sure. So we are just passing around an email list if you want to add your email to that. Boston Study Group as an organization, we organize a lot of events around Boston area. There we keep rotating them to Brandeis, Harvard, MIT. So you're always welcome to attend those events. We have, and that's like a monthly Ambedkar lecture series. That's what we call. And so with different aspects of education or like health or journalism, and you saw a couple of those in the beginning. So those lectures are a way to engage. We also have a online book discussion group. So we read certain parts of Dr. Ambedkar's writings and then come together online and discuss about them. So that is also an open group. Once you add in your email ID there, we can send the announcements, and you're always welcome to join that and keep continuing with us. Also, we help with a couple of conferences, but one of the biggest conferences, which is the annual Unfinished Legacy of Dr. Ambedkar. That conference has been 3 times in Brandeis. Last year was in Amherst. This year it's going to be in Columbia University, New York. So that is a big way to engage. So yeah, a couple of things there. We are always happy to send you literature if you want to read. We have some literature today. Annihilation of Caste. It's one of Dr. Ambedkar's most succinct writing. You'll it's a difficult text to read. So like reread it in terms of like the language, in terms of like it talks about endogamy, it talks about how caste manifests. So it's a good text to start with.
And whenever we get the opportunity like this one, we try to reach out there. And based on this experience, definitely we'll be reaching out to other colleges also. And once we like to go more to the colleges because the students are more amicable for learning or understanding as compared to the when we go to the community. So that's why we are concentrating more on the universities. And hopefully based on this experience, we'll go to the other universities too. Any other question?
Any other final questions? I know that we're like at time for folks. Would you all be able to stick around for a few minutes after in case people have private, like maybe?
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah. Any question?
We can all have a BSG member stand up and see, and you guys can reach out to us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shokti is here, Swaroop is here, Amol, of course, you know. And there's Hemant with a little
Hemant
cute
is
kid right there.
taking care of. So, any questions? You want to ask question?
Yeah,
You are okay.
Do you have any like thoughts on how like people outside of the caste system can be allies like in everyday life, like other than like bringing awareness to the issue, like how we can be allies?
Means outside the caste means within the Indian diaspora you are talking about?
No,
or?
like in America, for example, like so to like I like as like a white person who doesn't
Correct.
who's not involved in this.
Yeah,
like,
so as Jaspreet has already told you, correct? So there are different things Boston Study Group does, like the monthly lecture series, the book reading clubs, and we do the different conferences, and we are reaching out to the UMass Boston to have a conference next year. So that's why we are reaching out to different avenues to spread this message, and you can if you go to the Boston Study Group .org, you will see there are around 26 lectures, and if you have seen those slides in the video, the speakers were from the different countries, even from the different part of the India, from America, and the subjects were also very diverse. Something affecting the Pakistan, something affecting Nepal, or within India, the Muslim community, Dalit community, or the women. So if you go to the Boston Study Group .org, and there are the links to the YouTube channel, you will learn many more things. And we are trying to put as many videos as possible from the different sessions we have, so that you can learn from them. And we will definitely, if you are signed up, you will get the email from us.
Also, you can, I think, reach out to me or from Boston Study Group for any questions, and we can have phone conversation or email conversation so that we can share things that you want to propagate or want to have a discussion.
Yeah, and I think the basic thing is just to like raise questions and like, you know, bring those things in discussions, because like, for example, my partner is doing his PhD in UMass Boston, and so he talks about climate change. And so when we talk about climate change, we just think about how it affects poor communities, but can we also see like how caste plays in that? So, you know, just like having that perspective into different aspects of your work, and like for any human rights issue, how you just, you know, be aware of it and like see how you identify it and how can you bring it to discussion. And that's probably. So thank you. So yeah.
Just one quick question. We also have data on what the demographics, caste demographics of the diaspora is, like what percentage is dominant, like what percentage is
Here
in America,
US.
I don't think so. There has been any study yet.
That there is no study.
But it's something that would definitely help.
Yeah, here in the census, I don't think there is any option of putting the caste or something like that. And even if it is there, I don't think anybody would like to put that one.
Yeah.
But one experience means Professor Larry Simon used to share with me from the Brandeis University that there is a South Asian professors group is there, and they whenever they get the opportunity, they always try to impress upon that they are coming from the Brahmin community. in some or the other way, they will always try to make sure that the people sitting in front of them realize that they are from the Brahmin community. So they try to do that assertiveness everywhere whenever they get opportunity. Unfortunately, but there is no census as such. But we know that maximum people coming to this country from India, especially, are from the upper caste.
Like
And
98
just
to 99%.
correct, yeah, 99%. And just since last 10-15 years, because of the IT boom, there was some opportunity for the Dalit people to come over here. Otherwise, there were no avenues for those people. They were not financially sound. There were no opportunity for them to take the education and all this. So there is no means. And whereas the upper caste people, they have every avenue possible. Even when one person comes, then there is an avenue to get the family visa, and then he brings all the family members here. But that was never a provision or chance for somebody from the Dalit families till last 10 to 15 years. Shukji, you want to say anything? Yeah, go ahead.
I just have another question.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
From earlier in your presentation, you brought up how there are thousands of subcastes within each caste,
Yes.
and that's just something that I'm very familiar with. And so, could you talk about that a little? I'm sure other people here are also familiar with divisions amongst the castes.
Correct.
Well.
Yeah. So, for example, scheduled caste. Correct. So, within the scheduled caste, I will just take the example of my state, Maharashtra. Within India, there are so many, 26 states, I believe. I forgot I left India. 26. Now it is 29. Correct. Okay. So 3 might have been added in there. So in Maharashtra itself, when we talk about the scheduled caste, within that there is a one community called as Mahar, another is called as Mang, another is Chambar, means basically the cobbler community, Mang, and then scavenger, basically the people who do the scavenging work or cleaning work. So like that, there are many communities in the scheduled caste itself. Okay, so that is the Dalit family. In the tribe also there are different castes within the tribe. If we are we see the Pardis, then we see different Matang. So that type of the different communities within that. I'm just specifying which I know, but there are, as I say, there are so many. And when we think about within that, now I'm talking about within the Dalits, there is a Mahar Man. But within Mahar also, there is again subcaste. Mm-hmm. Okay, so and that subcaste, I know the Ladwan, and then something like that, Kosre, and something like that. What I mean to say that, and within that subcaste also, it's very difficult to have the intermarriage and the interdining. Mm-hmm. Means they have been divided so badly by this particular culture of the Indian that religion. That because they worship the different gods, that is one thing, and they don't intermarry, they don't interdine, and they hate each other. Mm-hmm. So to that level, that particular animosity goes between the subcaste. You forget about within the caste itself. Yeah. Means in the caste, the one caste person doesn't vote for the other caste person. They don't go. That is a totally different era, and so all these type of dynamics exist in the Indian caste system.
And are things mostly family? Do things branch off because of family, or is it? You mentioned profession earlier.
Yeah. No, so the profession is basically that is not the caste system is never a part of the profession as such. Mm. Okay, so the caste means when you are born in the same Mahar community. Okay, so you are Mahar. Not necessarily that you are doing the profession of the Mahar. Within Mahar also they may be doing the different type of things, because there are so many manual works a person can do, correct? So they may be doing the different works, the profession, but at the same time still they remain the Mahar. Okay, so for example, if I am a CEO and somebody else is a manager and another is a scavenger, but still we are Mahar. Okay, so it doesn't differentiate that he is a CEO person, and that's why I said that there is a mobility in the class system, that once I became the CEO, I became the person at the high echelon, correct? Mm-hmm. But not in the Indian caste system. I still remain the Mahar. So that is the difference between the class and the caste.
It's kind of a graded inequality. So it's like human nature that we want to be like superior to somebody. So it's kind of like, I'm better than this person. I'm at least better than this person. That was the kind of idea to get it into that graded inequality kind of. So the castes and then subcastes and then the subcastes. And so it's like, trying to be better than someone.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's the Manusmriti's logic of greater inequality.
Yeah.
To be an awesome one.
And I think when they devised this system, they were very intelligent, understanding the mentality of the Indian person. They don't care about whether they have been ruled by others. They care about that they are ruling somebody else. And they are happy with that. So somebody is below me. That is the happiness they get it. They don't care that somebody is ruling me. And that's why they are able to rule for so many years, because there is no unrest. Correct? So in that system, somebody is thinking that, okay, I'm always having someone to rule upon or torture someone. So that's the caste system.
And within Maharashtra, within the Brahmins, there are 7 types of Brahmins.
Yeah.
And there is, of course, this issue about intermarriage and things. So it's everywhere. Brahmins and Vaishyas and Kshatriyas.
Correct. And
so this book along, this book along with Who Were the Shudras is will be the perfect combination to understand the genesis of the caste and where it came from and what happened. So.
Yeah, all of
that book is
writings are also available online.
Here to take free for you. So please carry with you. And one thing I just wanted to let you know that in the Christianity, there is no caste system. Right? As you may be knowing, if you are Christian, you may be knowing that there is no caste system. Similar in the Muslim community, there is no caste system. But if you are a Christian from India or the Muslim from India, they have the caste system within that. Because most of the people in India converted from their Hindu religion to the Muslim or to the Christian. So with them, they carry the caste also. So even if you are in the Christian, so there are the Brahmin Christians and the the Dalit Christian. So they will be having the same type of behavior or discriminations what they are having in the community. So now it has become a phenomenon of whole India, rather than it is just the phenomena within a caste.
Yeah, like Southeast Asia, even Bangladesh, Pakistan.
Yeah, Nepal.
Yeah, because they were part of the India.
This whole South Asian subcontinent, it's suffering in this cancer.
And it says one thing they say about the Indian people said that whenever they go with their caste. So they carry their caste everywhere. So it is not going to go away.
Yeah.
Any more questions? So I hope we have made given the enough information for you to understand what is the caste discriminations, and you will start looking towards the Indian diaspora in that light. And whenever you come across any person from this underprivileged class or community, you will have the different perspective to look at them. So with that, thank you very much for being here. And there are books, and there is a flyer about the Boston Study Group to know about that. And there is all the information you have if you want to reach out to us anytime. So thank you very much. Please take the books.
And also the narratives from our class are going to be different from the narratives of the Dalit. So keep in mind, whenever you talk with a Savarna or a Dalit, the narratives are going to be different.
Thank you for organizing.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
Maybe end the stream.